Have you ever been following GPS directions to an address only to find out you're in the wrong town? Major gift segmentation is often approached not only from different directions by your fundraising team, but they could be using completely different mental maps. Starting your segmentation for a major gifts implementation requires first creating a shared mental map for your team, and this is done through agreeing on language and terminology. In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate a major gift segmentation using a visual process, and we're going to apply the time and tested quadrant model. Let's segment a donor file by two factors: level of contribution and degree of interest. The horizontal line represents donations at major gift threshold, whatever that is for your organization. This is often between $1,000 and $5,000 for small and mid-sized organizations. The vertical line represents the donor engagement level. How much information and contact do donors expect or want from the organization? Each quadrant then represents a segment. The low quadrant are those donors who make small gifts but for whom the organization is not a top priority. The next quadrant is composed of donors who make small gifts and are closely affiliated with the organization. These donors are passionate about the cause and loyal to your organization. In the top left quadrant, we have donors that make gifts above the major gift threshold, but for whatever reason, they're not highly engaged. Some may be high-capacity individuals whose regular gifts are of the size that feel major to your organization, but not to them. Or they could be donors who give based on a diversified portfolio that doesn't change much year to year. And the final quadrant are major donors who consider the organization a top priority and who give above the major donor threshold. There's an organizational quadrant model that parallels the donor model. Now the horizontal line represents the organization's investment of funding resources, primarily staff time, and also systems. The vertical line represents the effort the organization expends on cultivation, the degree of personalization, customization, specialized content. So whereas the donor quadrant represents segments, the organization quadrant represents strategies. So that ultimately, the organization's fundraising strategy optimizes donor engagement and contribution levels by moving each donor up to his or her optimal engagement and contribution level, and by investing the appropriate effort of staff resources to cultivate each segment. In this model, the donor file appears equally divided, but in reality, the 80-20 rule is closer to accurate. Only 20% of your donors will be in the highest level quadrant, but they will account for 80% of your contributions. A major gifts implementation strives to dedicate 80% of staff resources on this quadrant and design efficient systems for customizing cultivation to the other quadrants, and to use mass communications and general appeals to cultivate and solicit the lower quadrant donors. So I hope that using this quadrant model is an example of how you can get your fundraising team using the same mental map so that you can begin refining your segmentation definitions and organizing your fundraising strategies.